Well, friends, once again, a Ronald Reagan-appointed federal judge just verbally ripped into Donald Trump for some of his executive orders, saying, quote, "I've never seen a record where racial discrimination was so palpable," close quote. And wait until you hear some of the other things this Reagan-appointed judge said about Donald Trump's lawlessness. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, Donald Trump's lawlessness and unconstitutionality is being called out in uncharacteristically strident, direct, and plain-spoken terms by federal judges who were appointed by Democrats, who were appointed by Republicans, and so many judges who were appointed by Donald Trump himself. Here's the most recent example. It's in a case involving Donald Trump's executive orders that discriminate against minorities and against the LGBTQ plus community. This from Politico. Headline, "My duty is to call it out." Judge accuses Trump administration of discrimination against minorities. And that article begins, "A federal judge appointed by Ronald Reagan on Monday accused the Trump administration of appalling and palpably clear discrimination against racial minorities and LGBTQ plus Americans." This quote from the judge, quote, "I've never seen a record where racial discrimination was so palpable. I've sat on this bench now for 40 years. I've never seen government racial discrimination like this," said U.S. District Judge William Young, a Massachusetts-based jurist who took the bench in 1985. That's right, friends. Judge William Young has been a federal judge for 40 years, and he was appointed to the federal bench by President Ronald Reagan. So I'm just going to take a flyer and say he's probably not a radical left-wing lunatic judge. My editorial edition. The article continues. Young's sweeping rebuke during a court hearing was a reference to two executive orders signed by President Donald Trump that led the National Institutes of Health to rescind funding for research related to racial minorities and LGBTQ plus people. Though Young said he was uncertain whether he had the power to block the executive orders themselves, he declared the NIH cuts Monday to be illegal and void, and ordered the NIH to immediately restore the research funds. But of course, an appeal is likely. And friends, let me share just two other scorched earth quotes from Judge Young regarding Donald Trump's despicable, discriminatory executive orders. Quote, "I am hesitant to draw this conclusion, but I have an unflinching obligation to draw it that this represents racial discrimination and discrimination against America's LGBT community. That's what this is. I would be blind not to call it out. My duty is to call it out." And one final quote from Judge Young, quote, "You are bearing down on people of color because of their color. The Constitution will not permit that. Have we fallen so low? Have we no shame?" Thank you, Judge William Young, for being a point of light, a beacon of light amidst the Trump-induced darkness. Now, friends, in recent weeks, you may have heard me reference a statistic, 96%. Donald Trump is reportedly losing 96% of the time across all of the Trump-related litigation. There was a statistical analysis done by a political science professor at Stanford, and the results were reported out a couple of weeks ago. And what this professor did was he looked at and analyzed all of the Trump litigation, not just whether Trump won or lost the case, but each ruling in each case. And he concluded that Donald Trump was losing 96% of the time in the federal cases that were being litigated about his unconstitutional, his unlawful executive orders and other conduct. 96% of the time. This old career DOJ lawyer can tell you that the Department of Justice typically doesn't lose 96% of the time. They typically win 96% of the time, give or take. And of course, Donald Trump attributes it to lunatic judges. I don't know how he can call them, radical left-wing lunatic judges when so many were appointed by Republican presidents, including Donald Trump himself, but that's what he claims. Of course, Donald Trump's consigliere, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, says the judges are deranged. Well, friends, I'm here to tell you, it's not because the judges are lunatics or the judges are deranged that they're ruling against Donald Trump 96% of the time. It's because Donald Trump is doing unlawful and unconstitutional shit 96% of the time in the cases that are being litigated. It's not the judges. It's that Donald Trump is corrupt and lawless to his core, enthusiastically so, gleefully so. But friends, this is not Donald Trump getting stronger. This is Donald Trump getting weaker. You know who's getting stronger? We the people are getting stronger. Just look at the numbers of the No King's Day rallies across America on Saturday. Given the numbers at Donald Trump's little vanity birthday parade in Washington, D.C., you saw the pictures of the empty bleachers. Donald Trump is getting weaker, not stronger. Donald Trump is getting less confident, not more confident. He's getting more desperate, and that may manifest itself in dangerous ways. But that doesn't mean we, the people, are going to back down. And what I think we can say is a certainty is that the federal courts are not going to back down. They're holding him accountable 96% of the time. And I know what you're saying, friends. But the Supreme Court, I'm with you. But I think they just may be learning their lesson. No, we have two justices that we can write off, right? Alito and Thomas. We can write them off. But I'll take a 7-2 Supreme Court opinion in favor of constitutionality any day of the week. In fact, every day of the week. And I'll leave you with this, friends, as an indication that even the Supreme Court seems to be learning its lesson about the need to keep an aspiring dictator in check, the need to remain loyal to the text and the spirit of the Constitution. In the last 3 due process cases, all involving the due process rights, notice an opportunity to be heard, involving immigrants, the vote was 9-0, unanimous in favor of due process, 7-2 in favor of due process, 7-2 in favor of due process. I like to think that's a trend, at least an important data point. The federal courts have been holding strong. I believe the federal courts will continue to hold strong. I believe the federal courts will continue to provide points of light amidst the Trump-induced darkness, because I think to the overwhelming majority of federal court judges at every level, justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.